The like I was saying, over up here in the upper left is the Unity hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
It is the sort of the organization of the whatever scene that you're looking at. Whenever you're doing cutscene work, you want to hold book open. It has the default environment loaded with it. What that shouldn't really change anything. If you really wanted to see what things looked like with in the fire level, let's see. You can just drag fire chapter environment here, and that's what it looks like during the fire chapter.
Mm.
But for the most part, you shouldn't need to worry about that. Default is fine. Doesn't really change anything from your perspective, but what you do need to know is sort of how the book is organized. So under game, if you go to game space, play area, that's sort of the active area that the player can interact with.
Mm-hmm.
Single player game area, book controller, book pages. We have this left page, right page, animated pages, and active pages, and to be destroyed. This is important because you need to basically, this is where you put the page prefabs that you're going to be dealing with. So
Okay.
I'm just going to search for Fiera intro. So the boss intro is probably one of the better ones to use as an example. These all live inside assets, game data, page cutscenes, chapter 5 cutscenes. You take this and drag it to, I believe it should be left page. If you drag it to left page contents,
Mm-hmm.
it should now exist within the book page. And if we click on it and open it up, there's this cutscene director.
Mm-hmm.
If you select that, and then if you probably don't have this open, but if you go to Window, and then under Animation, no, where is it? Sequencing, Timeline,
Mm-hmm.
it'll open up the timeline, which is what you use to control the entire cutscene, and it works just like you would do like video editing.
Okay.
It's this scrubbable timeline.
Sweet. Okay.
It looks like it should be on right page, so I'm gonna move that over. Just gonna delete it and drag another one in on right page contents. Oops. I guess we can leave this popped out for clarity. Anyway, so if we just hit play, you should see things go very quickly, and then she leaves. So one of the limitations with timeline, I mean, this is really good because you can see a lot of the movement. However, you cannot really experience the cutscene in real time through this through the timeline editor here, because there's a lot of other things going on when the game's actually running. Like there's animation, there's dialogue pop-ups, and it's waiting for the user prompt to like read the text, press a button. So all you can really do while the game isn't playing is sort of get a feel for her movement and
Mm-hmm.
sort of plan everything out. So I guess I can sort of start stepping through what all goes into a cutscene. So a timeline is just basically a recording of a bunch of different events or movements or animations or whatever. The way this is set up is each cutscene has a mask. The mask is masking Fiera and keeping her sort of on the book page.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get this nice sort of like creeping off the side of the page effect, that's done with the mask, and that's what this first line is and why it's active for the entirety of the cutscene. It's
Okay.
just basically confining her to the book. And when she flies out, I actually have two separate masks that toggle on and off. But you probably don't need to worry too much about that. Say just focusing on getting movements and getting the animations and getting the dialogue in is the way to go. But all of them should have masks if they're in a book. So you can just really just copy it and just leave it alone whenever you're making new ones.
Okay.
I'm going to skip Fiera Animator right now because it's a little more complicated, but the rest of these are different tracks. This is a character animation track. This is a character dialogue track. And this is a camera track. And the way you add tracks is by right-clicking in this open space here.
Mm-hmm.
And you can add a new character animation track, a new Fmod track, so like playing sound events. You can do that literally right here. And then you'll need to select an Fmod object. But if you wanted to add an Fmod event, it has the capability of adding sound effects or whatever you want. So I wouldn't really worry about that. But getting back to these, the main ones that you're going to want to be concerned with are the character animation track and the character dialogue track. You can ignore all of the rest of these. Cinemachine, if you want to do cutscene or a camera cutscene work, that's where this one would come in. But again, I would just be worried about roughing them in and getting her movement really well, and then I can help with anything beyond that. The last one that you'll probably want to be concerned with is the animation, which I'll go over in last. Alright, getting back to character animation track. Essentially what this does is it defines what animation the character is currently playing. You can't really see it reflected here, but if you select it, the convention that I sort of follow is I named the title of the track event whatever emotion that I wanted. So if you click on it, you should see idle or base animation. If you click this, you can see all the different animations. Idle, angry, happy, annoyed, grin, sad, shocked. The difference between state and animation is animation will play once, state will loop until it is told to do something else.
Okay.
So when she does her appear, like when she like turns her head to the side around the corner of the page, that actually might be, let's see. Maybe oh no, it's confused. That's what I named that one. So it'll just play once and then she'll go back to idle. Same with appear and disappear, that's like poofing in and poofing out. Those only happen once, they don't loop. States will loop until you tell it to do something else. Realistically, this should probably show one or the other. If you set one, you can't really do another one. So, but essentially what's happening here at the very beginning is I'm forcing her into idle. It plays until she comes onto the screen. And then right here, she's going to play happy, and that's where she sort of jumps. And then it'll go back into idle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm just looking. My window maybe looks a little different on the right inspector when I'm looking at those. I don't know if I see the hold on. Oh, I see. If you go down to animation data, is that where base state and base animation? Okay, gotcha. All right, sweet.
Yep. So when you want her to do like a smile or be angry, whatever, that's where you set that. Now, so this sort of works in conjunction with the character dialogue track. So if you take a look at this one, this is where we actually are setting what she's saying in the.
Okay.
And this is localized, so you have to put her lines in that localization table that I showed you guys, and I can always refer you back to that. But you just put the tag of the line there. For other cutscenes, I actually put the dialogue in the title up here, just so that I know what she's saying, even though it's getting localized. And that's just for my own personal reference. But you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want in terms of naming these. Right now, these are all just named character data, which is not very helpful. Anyway, the way this one works is you have your tag, you have where on the window, so whether it's the top or the bottom that the dialogue is displayed. The window will pop up at the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen. You can set that here. When the dialogue line has been fully completed, and the way that we determine if something is completed is either the player skips it or it has fully appeared, or there's a couple other different situations where we consider it to be completed. Most of the time this is going to be close. What that does is it does a little swoosh, it makes it disappear. The one time where that isn't the case is at the very end. Oh, here, I can show you. See how I put the actual line for what she's saying there instead of the. Anyway, so what this is doing and why this is different Oh wait, no, it is open. Okay. I don't know when this should be stay open then. Completely ignore me. I thought that should be set to stay open. So we're gonna ignore that for now. Oh, that one stay open. Weird. Just set it to close. I'll dig further into that and remember how that actually is supposed to be working. Anyway, pause timeline is the important one. That's what's actually stopping. So she'll get here and say her dialogue line, and it pauses this whole sequence. And that's why I can't do any of the animation in here, because it would stop the animation as well. So all the animation's happening game side outside of this timeline, and that's why we can't really watch it happen as part of this. We could literally animate it and change your animation, and it would look correct here, but as soon as we hit this point and stopped, it would stop her animation as well. So it was one thing I had to sort of overcome. Anyway, so all of these lines have pause timeline on, except for this one. And here it is, time to jet. That's why this one's huge, is because it takes up that actual amount of time, plus an additional 1.5 seconds until it closes. So cutscenes are just basically a series of emotions, pauses with character dialogue, and then you can see so it's pauses at the beginning of all of these. So the length of this doesn't actually matter. If pause is set, it could literally be down to like that size. And as soon as you hit spacebar or the line finishes, it continues. So basically right after you finish this line, she'll do idle and then continue. And then right here, she's going to do confused and speak again. And then when you press spacebar, it'll go here. And what's happening down here is just a camera shake event. That's the only camera track that exists. And that's how I'm doing, like, the boss is getting closer. I'm setting the intensity and duration. The intensity is getting bigger with each one. So anyway, she says that line, gets to this next one. She's shocked. Says another line. We wait for the player input. Go to here. You get the idea. So that's like the meat of the interactions with her. Then the second aspect of it is her movement. And her movement is a little bit more complicated and may take some practice, but this second line is an animator. Animators are like, you can literally hand animate whatever you want her to do, and it will play back line for line. If you double click the darkened area here, it should open up in another window the animation somewhere in your Unity. I'm not sure what you have open, but you can actually see that now this correlates to the animation in the animation window. You see how the scrub line?
Yeah, so mine popped the window up, but it looks different from yours. Oh, here we go. I had to expand it. You can get it to, I see, you can get it to like sit on the window. Cool. Okay.
So if you scrub, you can dock it wherever you want, but if you scrub with the current playhead, you can see where that is on the animation.
Okay.
And the way that Fiera's animation is handled is in this animation that we just popped up. If you take a look here, there's a little record button. If you toggle that, now we're recording, and we can actually change what she's doing in this animation. The easiest way that I found to sort of do this is to sort of plot out what you want her to say first. Get like the emotions and get like the timing for that, and then start working on the movement.
Okay.
And I'll show you how to adjust the movement. And it'll be easier when you can actually sort of set this up for yourself. But so this is just a numerical value. She's her Y elevation is 0, which makes sense because she's in the middle of the screen, and she's slightly offset to the right. That's why this is positive and not negative. There's a couple different ways you can adjust her with the recording on and with the playhead set to aligned to that keyframe. These are all different keyframes, and then Unity sort of interpolates between each of them. You select the keyframe, and then you can literally drag this number back and forth to adjust her position. So
Okay.
I'm just going slightly to the left of the number, and you get this little mouse left and right symbol, and then you can just click and drag and move her. You can also type in the number if you wanted, or you can literally select Fiera and go into scene view. That's not very useful because there's this thing in the way. And you can literally place her like this. Scene
So then
view.
I think the one thing I'm not seeing now is, or I'm not able to do is that left and right drag.
Okay.
Click.
So if you come back down here into the animation window, if you go just to the left of the numbers,
Okay, gotcha.
and then you can drag left and right if you click down. And then scene view, if it's easier for you, you can literally just position her like, I want her there.
Mhm.
So now, even though recording is still on, you can see how she goes up there now. By
Mm.
scrubbing the timeline.
Let's see. Uh, okay. So you need to be in recording mode. Okay, and then. And then how do I bring up the... Looks like I lost the animation.
So you can always go to Window, Animation.
Or sorry, I have that locked in where you do, but it's
Mhm.
just like it looks like it's something cutscene director, create an animator.
Oh, okay, so you may have lost focus on it.
Yeah.
So, like for example, if I click off of the cutscene director,
Mm.
see how everything goes away?
Mhm.
If you select cutscene director, it brings it back to the timeline here,
Mhm.
and then you can double click the timeline animation to bring it back up in there,
Okay. Okay.
and then you turn on record to make sure that it's actually recording. And I believe you can either toggle record there or here. Doesn't look like. Looks like just to be safe, because I've had some weirdness, I would just toggle it on with the little red button there.
So then, okay, so just so I understand it, all of these diamond, the little diamond things up in the animation, that is basically her X and Y coordinates.
Yes, those are, so in animation terms that's called a keyframe,
Okay.
and you as the animator are setting sort of the keyframes in a timeline, and then Unity determines, based on some animation curves, which you don't need to worry about, where she should be in between those keyframes.
Okay, she'll move from point to point basically once you set the points. Okay.
So
And then when I'm clicking on a stack of them,
Mhm.
it looks like on the information on the left window is not really changing. Like the anchored position is still like whatever it is, 550.3 or something like that. If that makes sense.
Yep,
Like those.
that's the very first starting point. So
Okay.
right about here is 550, and then if you scrub, you can see how her values are changing.
Oh, yep. Okay. Got
See
it.
whatever it is that you set there, and you can always like say, you know what, I want her to like do a little hop or whatever. You can come here and click add keyframe, and then say I want her to actually like come in, go up, and then come down. There, boom. Looks like she's like jumping onto the page or something.
Hmm.
And you can actually, and if I'm like, oh, never mind, I can delete that keyframe, and now she's back to just sliding in.
Okay.
So all animating her really is controlling her emotion, saying what she needs to say, and then moving her position around on the page. And you can do a lot. You can like some of them I make her look like she's jumping on the bottom of the page, like
Mhm.
bouncing. Hovering is mostly taken care of by the animation, so you don't need to like have her hovering or anything like that. Just worry about positioning her on the page and what you want her doing. Trying to think if there's anything else that. Oh, the other things that are also taken care of for you is like when she slides into the corner of the bookbinding.
Mhm.
That's handled programmatically. You don't need to worry about that. So
Oh,
literally,
so if she crosses that point, she'll just do it.
yep, she'll just do it.
Cool.
Similarly, I mean, the masking is taken care of for us as part of
Okay.
the mask that is set up here. But that's like the basic elements to a cutscene. There's
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, so basically, yeah,
movement,
phase one.
speech, and emotion.
So you just getting her expressions in, getting the lines in, and then for just to refresh on the line, is that the dialogue row or track?
Mhm.
That is localized. Can you define? Because I feel like I know it. I deduced what localized means, right? Where it's like accessing an external database,
Mhm.
right? Like where we
Mhm.
have like that table, so it just knows to access Fira line 7 or something,
Mhm.
and all that. The line is sitting in the database, but it's just pulling it from there. Is that right?
Yeah. So the essence of localization is you're abstracting the language data up one level. So instead of having whatever line it is, her saying, "Oh, and there it is," blah blah blah. We just say, "Oh, she says line 7," and then line 7 means something different depending on which language you're in. If you're in
Okay.
English, that means well what we would
Oh,
expect it
right.
to mean. If you're in
Right.
Spanish, that means something different. French, etc. So essentially, the game will then say, "All right, I have line 7. Let me access my database. Then let me see what language I'm in. Oh, I'm English. Okay, I'm grabbing the English line and putting it up here."
Okay.
That's why we're adding it now, because doing this all over again later would be a huge pain. Um, I can link you to the localization thing again. Actually, no.
Sure.
If you go into Slack here
Mm-hmm.
under links,
Oh,
it's right
nice.
there.
Great.
So if you open it up, see at the bottom here we have different spreadsheets. General, title, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 5. These are all under chapter 5.
Okay.
So you can see, actually line 8. Oh, and there it is. There's my cue to Jack. Good luck. And here's all the different languages that are not professionally translated, but good enough for now.
Yeah.
And then as far as adding new lines, it looks like I missed it here. You can literally just take the whole, well, I usually do the 3 foreign languages and do the Excel copy or Excel duplicate, where you just drag it down and it will sort of keep these Google Translate commands.
Mm-hmm.
It should translate eventually. Function parameter 1 value should be non-empty. P28. Oh, that's why. This is actually off by 1. 6, 7. Yeah, look at this. Way off. I can fix this later. It's not important. We don't really care what the foreign language is right now. Yeah, that should be 6. And that should be 5. Alright, now if I drag it down, there we go. You'll grab that line and translate it. Anyway, so adding new lines is just creating a unique key. So what I did for the cutscenes is basically the chapter name, her, and then a description of the cutscene. So boss intro, boss outro, and then the line number.
Okay.
So it's very simple to just plop that in, because you just increment the number at the end. And then game side, since we're recording this, and you can always refer back to it, if you go up to window localization, oops, come on, localization package manager, you can see chapter 5 is right there. If you click at it, you just have to click load from web.
Okay.
So I'm loading from web right now. Alright, and that line is now localized. There's
Great.
Spanish, French, German, and English. So you can also refer to this if you don't want to have the spreadsheet open, and literally just copy this, go here, and plop it right in.
Okay.
It's kind of up to you. So that's like a general overview of how cutscenes work, and I think probably the best thing to do next would be to start one from scratch
Mhm.
and let you sort of see how the process sort of works. Does that sound good?
Yeah, perfect.
Any questions before you do that?
I don't think so. I'll just make sure to like not really save anything for this
Yeah.
when I exit Unity. Yeah.
I'm gonna discard stuff as well, just because we've
Cool.
been messing with stuff. So if we take a look at the script, so the level will end when an ice spell is cast, hits the chain to crack, gameplay ends. So Fiera is gonna come onto the page. You can figure out. Oh, it looks like you're requesting access.
Oh, that was just for the localization.
I thought I had it set to. There. I'll change it later.
Sure.
I gave you direct access. Anyway. So here's the context. So she's going to need to come on the page in some capacity and then say, aha, I knew it, you're spell weak on the chain, and totally destroy this page. And goes on and on. What you'll want to do from here is probably figure out, all right, what are good line. I mean, I guess she could say this whole block of text, but it's probably. It doesn't give you much control over what emotion she's displaying between each sort of sentence.
Right.
So the first thing you would do is come in here and be like, all right, I'm going to say this is the first line. This is the second line. This is the third line. And then this is the fourth line. So there's probably 4 lines to this cutscene, right?
Mhm.
So why don't you, now that you have localization access, let's get these into the localization table. So split it up however you feel like you want it to be split up, and just
Right.
dump them into the spreadsheet. And I would put the lines in first, like just on line 28, just paste them in under English however you want.
Yeah. Except for the font is now. I changed
If you
the font.
do, well, I know Windows is Control Shift V.
Match style.
Will do paste without formatting.
Oh shoot. Because I was doing paste and match style, but it still does it incorrectly.
So if you right click
Mm-hmm.
and go under paste special, what is the hotkey for paste values only?
Command Shift V.
Yeah, try that.
Alright, one sec.
Actually, the style is probably changed now, so here, let's do this. Try it now.
Recopy.
And then Command Shift V.
Oh, weird. Still doing it. I guess I gotta just eventually, when I'm done, just change them all to Arial.
Yeah, that's fine.
Highlight it all.
Whatever's easiest for you.
So then, does this need to be? Since these lines I'm doing right now are occurring before the boss battle, right?
Yep, well before the boss battle.
Do we need to move these up? You know what I mean?
You
Like
absolutely can. Yeah, like
higher in the spreadsheet,
whatever makes sense. I'm fine with it being like sort of
chronological or whatever.
chronological.
Yeah.
So here. So yeah, go for it.
Okay, sweet. So put that in here. And then should we make this? Let's see.
So it should be definitely chapter 5 _ Fiera.
And then we'll do like, I'm trying to think of where, let me find that last line where this one is. There it is. You know how to use this thing?
I would just do level 1 outro.
Oh, great. All right. So you were having this value here be for the level, right?
So
Or should it be level
yeah,
one?
yeah, that would be. You could just do 1. That's fine.
Okay.
The only thing, so I guess you just sort of have to figure out if you have an intro and outro to level 1.
Mm-hmm.
Would you just increment like? Would the first line for the outro be the last number of the intro? Because this is sort of the intro to the chapter right here.
Right.
But if this was the intro to the level 1, would we just start at 9? Or I guess you could just do one intro. Yeah, let's just do that. So like this. That would be the first line.
Okay.
But except this is the outro, so we should change that to outro. So it's Fiera,
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
level 1, outro, line 0.
Okay, great.
So go ahead and toss the other ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
However you feel like they should be split up.
Probably that.
So this level is actually going to be 2 separate cutscenes because the pages need to turn. And I guess that second one could probably be an intro to level 2 rather than an outro for level 1. So, alright, perfect. So, you can just take this cell, and in the bottom right, there's a little square, and just drag that down for the 3 other empty spots.
Oh, nice. That's a nice shortcut.
Then over here, you do the same thing. Select the Spanish ES through DE, so these 3, and you can do the same thing and drag down and it'll translate those lines. Looks like we lost one. Let me see if I can get it back. Boss intro 0, that's it. Okay.
Oops.
So if you select this one,
Below it.
no, you select the one that has the translation, and then shift click over to DE, German, and then do the same thing. Take the square and drag it down to fill out the translation. There you go.
Cool.
Now
Sweet.
it's localized.
Nice.
So this is saved. You can go back into Unity.
Okay.
And then over here, localization, package manager, brings up this, bring up chapter 5, click edit, and then just click load from web. And now you should see them.
Nice.
So now we're ready to do a new cutscene.
Alright.
So for me, the easiest thing to do is just start from scratch, or not start from scratch, and to just copy an existing one. When you're doing that, there's 2 things to copy. There's this prefab, which is the actual cutscene prefab, and then this timeline. The timeline is, I'll show you where you put it, but so I usually just like select these 2 and then hit, for you it's probably Command, but for me it's Control D, and it'll duplicate. Okay.
Except for one sec, my window doesn't show them in a list like yours. Mine are like the icons.
So in the bottom right here, you see this little slider doohickey.
Let's see. Oh yeah, okay.
So you slide it all the way to the left. It'll make it into list mode.
And then I see. Then it'll add a 1. Those are the copies. Okay, sweet.
So then we can just call this thing the same thing as. Let's just call it Fiera Fire Chapter Level 1 Outro. Maybe whatever you want. I would try to keep it consistent just for your own sanity. Level 1 outro cutscene timeline. So we effectively just duplicated the intro cutscene in its entirety and renamed it And that's like the first step. Then go back into your scene here. And it's really up to you. I tend to use the right page always. So the reason why it matters is depending on which page you put this cutscene in, the positions will change. So it should either be shifted to the left or shifted to the right. And for me, it's always easier if it's always right page because that's sort of where all the action happens. So if we take our new outro that's been copied and put it onto right page contents, we can bring back the timeline and just make sure everything still works. If you open it up, select the cutscene, and if we drag, oh, it looks like this one was on the left. See, I'm already making things difficult because you can see she's off the page.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just move it up here. We'll need to recenter it because there we go. This should always be 0, 0, 0, 0. The actual cutscene, the positions, whenever you move it from one to the other, so if I move it back to the right page, you see how the numbers reset? That's because it's trying to maintain its position, which it shouldn't.
And where are those numbers?
So if you select the outro in the hierarchy, in the upper right on the inspector, this is where it's positioned in the game space.
Oh, sure. So
Should always be 0.
Okay.
But now if we look at it and play it, it looks correct. She's centered again. So unfortunately, I wasn't even consistent between these two.
That's all right.
You can do whatever makes sense to you.
Gotcha. Alright, so now we have that.
So now we have like an existing cutscene. The one thing that we need to change, and this is very important, and it screwed me over, and I've lost work. So on the Fiera test cutscene, and this should probably instead be level 1 outro cutscene instead of test cutscene. There's this thing called the playable director. That's what Unity uses to control everything. And the most important thing that you should check every single time is what playable it's referencing, and this is that second object that we copied. So if you remember, we copied 2 objects, the one that we dragged in here, and the second one, which is this timeline object. That is what needs to be referenced by the cutscene prefab. So if you literally take that outro and drag it up here into this field, we need to do that every single time. Otherwise, you will basically be editing the other cutscene, even though we copied everything.
Okay, so
that's why it's so important.
We bring that to.
So you can literally drag that into the playable field, the first line above game time, in the update method.
Okay. I think my inspector is not showing the same thing as you do.
So if you select level 1, you select.
Oh, okay. Yep. Level 1 outro cutscene, and then we drag the timeline, that little Windowsy looking file.
Yep, right up into here.
Under playable director.
So now we're actually editing. So this one was pointing at this one previously. Now it's pointing at this new one that we copied.
Sweet.
And that's screwed me over. I can't tell you how many times. So I hope it will probably screw you over as well. But I hope just make a habit on checking that before you do any work. Make sure you're editing the right cutscene. Anyway, so now we are sort of, what this has done is it sort of reset everything, and we've lost the references to all the stuff in the cutscene, unfortunately, but it's super easy to set it back up. So this first one was always the mask. So you literally just take this, drag it, put it back in there. One thing that may make it easier is actually naming these before you copy any cutscenes, but we basically need to reassign all of these references inside our little prefab here. Most of these are going to just be Fiera. So this is the Fiera animator, that's her movement, so we just open up mask, select Fiera, and drag her back into here.
Then mine is like grayed out, I think.
The mask?
Yeah.
So that's because we need to set it active for the cutscene. That's what this first line is. It's always the or it should always be the.
Because I dragged it there. Okay, here we go. Now it's not any. Wait. When I click.
You should still have the cutscene selected so that
Mhm.
your timeline shows up.
And I dragged Max. I dragged Mask to that spot.
And is it active now?
Looks like it.
Then the rest of these are just Fiera.
Oh wait, sorry. When you say active, like, is she moving or is she? No. Okay, got you.
It just doesn't show up as grayed out anymore.
Yeah.
Then if you open up Mask, the rest of these are just Fiera. So you can drag Fiera onto the animator that controls her movement. You drag Fiera onto the character for her emotions, and then onto the dialogue for her dialogue. And now we're set up again. Now if you scrub, you should see her moving.
Yep.
So now we have sort of like we can start changing things. This time machine track, I would just say delete it. It was something else that I was trying to do that apparently was left over, so you can just delete that entire track. So what do you want her to do after the level is finished? So that right side is going to currently have a grid. You could potentially turn the page if you want, or have her appear somewhere around the grid. I guess, how do you want to handle it?
Let's see. It'd be kind of nice. So like they just cracked the chain a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe she pops out from the left side of that middle binding, because she's going to be hidden from there. If that makes sense, like the middle of the book.
So you want her right here?
Let's see. Let me look at your screen quick. Yeah, like right down the center line. Like maybe she appears, peeks out.
Okay. Then what we'll want to do is, so we've got the cutscene selected. We've got the timeline up and running. Let's open up the animation again. So I just double clicked here. That's interesting. It's not letting me edit it. Track settings are set to auto. Let's see if we can undo that. Maybe it's because... here we go. So, that's why. Okay. Hopefully you don't run into this. Maybe it's because we copied it. But you see how the record button is grayed out?
Mm-hmm.
You have to actually go in here and change the track offsets. And then I would just select this first option. And that should let you record again. Anyway, so let's double click, turn on recording, look at our animation window here. And then we can just literally, let's set her back to 0 so she's in the middle of the screen. And then just pull her, I guess we can set it to 0. So she should be hidden when she first appears.
Okay.
Then what?
So we want her to just like maybe peek, to the left. So she's like peeking out from the left side of that binding.
That may not work with the way that the binding thing actually works, because
or she can just fly out center to like the left page and have her do something like that.
Okay. So I would just you can use the existing keyframes and just modify them. You can delete them all, whatever you want to do, but let's just use the existing. You said you want her to fly out left. Right here. Let's keep her centered, so she'll just go like this.
It's like negative 250 for the X value?
Yep.
Something like that?
Yep, something like that. Doesn't need to be precise, whatever looks good to you.
Okay.
Alright.
Nice. Okay.
So now we can have her either play an animation, say a dialogue line. What do you want her to do?
Let's have her do both. Let's have her do, because it's like, aha, I knew it. So it should be like a happy.
So the easiest way to do that is, since we already have an existing emotion animation, you can just move this to line up with the end of that animation.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. And you said you want her to be happy, so we'll just set that to happy.
I see. under base state, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then base animation should be
None.
none.
Hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Then, if you wanted to say something as well, I would just reuse this character dialogue, so you don't have to make a new one.
Yep.
And drag it over, line it up. It should line up as long as you have your track head right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then go over to your spreadsheet, copy the name of the line, paste it in under the dialogue line, and you can leave the rest of this the same. If you'd rather have her appearing, the text appearing on the bottom, you can change that. Otherwise, you're good to go. Now
Okay.
the cutscene will halt as long as pause timeline is enabled. Cutscene will halt until the dialogue line is finished and then continue. So what do you want to do next?
Let's see. So is the right page going to be... The player grid's gone at this point, right?
Right now the player grid is there, but we could always turn the page so that you're dealing with fresh geometry, like whatever you want.
Over near the chain to look at it, like your spell weaken the chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's animate her doing that.
I'm going to show the third node, right, and then drag her.
Yep.
Maybe and I can
make sure recording is on.
Right.
Otherwise,
Yep.
the settings won't stick.
And I'll obviously maybe get a little more fancy with her movement.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, she's kind of moving in diagonal straight lines and stuff. So for that, you need to kind of to get her to loop.
So if you would like her to do more fancy movement, you would just add keyframes let's do 2 keyframes. One here, and it's just this diamond button. And then another one right here. So now we can say, I want her to go up, and then maybe up still, and then sort of settle. So now she'll go, woo.
Oh, okay. It's like an arc.
Yep. So it's just going to follow those points and then do a smooth blend between them.
Here's a question. Looks like what I'm doing right now, she jumps really quickly. I think there's 2. Oh, there's 2 right next to each other. That's why. Okay. Yeah, it was she just warped to another one. But
And if you want to increase, so say man, this is just too fast. I want her to go really slow.
yeah.
You can take the entire. Well, what I would do is take all of these, shift them over. Take all of these, stretch them out.
Sure.
So you can space them out evenly. And now if we play it.
All right.
Or if you want it really fast.
And then just bearing in mind that she'll be pausing at those points. Even
Yep.
though she's,
So even though we've moved all these, so all of the other animated stuff has remained still. So you can see whatever was going on here. Whenever I move this, you see how the diamonds shift, and the rest of the stuff stays the same. So you're gonna have to adjust this later. That's why I was saying, sort of figuring out roughing it in and then going back and doing a fine tuning is probably a little bit better than nailing it all down and then having to constantly move these back and forth. So.
And you're saying nail down the animation first, or that movement?
Yeah, I would say get the general speed of her movement feeling good.
Right.
Oh, that's too fast. Let's go in, space it out. Oh, that's better because that's how she'll actually be moving in the cutscene. It's just whenever it pauses, she'll just be standing still. But once you're happy with that, then I would say, all right, so here's where I want her to talk about the chain. So let's actually show you how to make a new one of these in case you don't have any more of the existing ones. You can literally just right click, and whatever one it is, add that data. So this is character animation data. It's huge. You can shrink it down. And it looks like it's set to angry appear by default.
Sounds about right.
You can set it to whatever you want her to do here, if anything. And then similarly, right click, add character dialogue data. It's huge. Shrink it down. And then you would add your dialogue line.
Sweet. All right. Okay, so we'll do. And then base animation.
Base animation is. Pull it up. Base animation is like a looping, or I'm sorry, is a. Yeah, it is a one played once and then she goes back into idle or whatever.
Okay.
So I should probably improve the naming conventions of these for you, but state is like she will stay in that state until you tell her otherwise. Animation is I will play it once and then I'm done. So appear, disappear, confused. Yeah.
Okay. So right now I have it at idle, and then the animation is none, just because she's going to go over and kind of look at the chain.
That's fine.
Okay, and then
Add that second line.
okay.
And it can probably be the same. We're not really doing anything too fancy. So then she's got 2 more lines to say. Do you want her doing anything or just staying in the same spot and saying those lines?
Let's see.
I'm going to go ahead and delete this keyframe and this keyframe. And yeah, you can get fancy and like have her looping, or eventually I can show you how to set these up so that you can actually see the pages that will be underneath her.
Okay.
But
one sec. I was trying to figure out her next spot.
don't worry.
So this.
She basically has to say, I know you're still pretty confused, don't worry, I'll explain, but first let's find more of those magic runes.
Alright. Right now I have her just like. So I have her, for me, she's going down, look at the chain in the bottom right kind of part of the page. And then maybe right now she'll swoop up to the left side again. Okay, so then I have, so for on my end, I have her next node. All right, and then I'll just basically do the same kind of thing, right? Just get.
You can do whatever you like, and then before the end of the cutscene, she just needs to leave the page.
Okay. We'll do green.
So I'll just do a simple. Yeah, we'll just leave that there.
Sure.
Oops.
Alright, so I think I've got that then.
Alright. So if you hit play, does it look like you want it to look? At least for now.
Yeah, except for all the extra stuff at the, like after it, so I might just get rid of all that.
You can just delete those keyframes.
Okay. Let's review it quick here. So yeah, I think that's it. Let's watch it again.
And I'll show you how you can actually test these in game.
Yeah, I think that's where I would want it.
Okay. So what you'll need to do is sort of save all these settings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come back in here and select that prefab again, in the upper right you see this overrides drop down. If you just click apply all, it'll sort of save everything.
Okay.
And then I always, before doing anything, just go up and save project, and that sort of forces it to the disk.
Sweet.
Otherwise, if Unity crashes, sometimes you can lose work.
Right.
So anyway, we have a cutscene prefab now, and that's all well and good. How do you get it in the game? I wouldn't worry too much about getting it to the right place in the game. That's something that I or Jake can do very quickly.
Okay.
For testing purposes, let's show you a good way to test. So, were you on the left or right page for this prefab?
I was on left.
Okay. It should still be there unless you got rid of it. It should say left. Should be under left page contents or right page contents.
Oh yeah, left page.
So, the way the page inserts work for the different chapters is if you go to prefab page inserts, you can see 1, 2, 5. The easiest thing for you to do is to just come down here to chapter 5 page inserts. You see we have chapter 5.5 page 1.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. If you select that and click open prefab, you see how it has fire chapter intro right now?
Oh, one sec. Yep.
You can just hit delete, get rid of that. Then search for your Fiera fire chapter level 1 outro,
Mm-hmm.
and drag it under container. And then if you hit this back arrow, it'll prompt you to save. So I hit save.
Shoot. Wait a sec. I think I missed the back arrow.
It's in the upper, it's the very top part of the, see right here.
Oh yeah, but it didn't prompt me. That's weird.
You might have autosave turned on, which is right here.
Okay.
I turn it off because I'm usually changing a lot of stuff and I don't want it to save after every single change. Anyway, so you basically changed the first page of chapter 5 to be your cutscene instead of the intro cutscene.
Okay.
So now we can delete this because you don't need it anymore, and you don't want it.
Just so I have the flow right. So it's chapter 5, 5.1, page 1. Beneath that's container. And then within that is chapter level 1 outro.
So now it should be outro instead of the intro to the chapter. And this is just an easy way for you to test the cutscene. You don't want, I mean, you could go and set it up on the right page, but I don't think you want to actually be concerned about finding the right place this cutscene needs to go.
Okay.
Just bear in mind, don't commit to the repository that you've changed to this page.
Yeah.
Because
is there a way to like just not select that basically? Is that what you mean? Like,
yeah, so when you go to, I'll show you. And this is like the final step, so we're almost done.
yeah, man, this is great. You're a great teacher.
I'm trying.
It's good series. What's up, guys? Make sure you smash that subscribe button.
Toss me like. Alright. So yeah, you can see how now chapter 5.1 page 1 has been changed.
Mm.
I just wouldn't check that in, or just before you check things in, just to revert it.
Okay.
We can test it. Man, I got a lot of stuff I gotta check in. Been doing a lot of work. Alright. The easiest way is just to hit play once you've deleted it out of left page.
Mm.
And it'll open up to some random chapter, whatever last chapter you have played. Eventually.
Let's see. Alright. Mine's doing the boss intro right now.
So if you just, you may have to go through that. Then go to exit, go back to the main menu.
Should I have something specific selected in the hierarchy at all?
No.
Okay, let's skip through this cutscene quick.
Skip through, and then when you get to the boss battle, just quit to title.
Alright, title.
Interesting, it didn't play. Then go to chapter 5 and then go to that first level.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll play for you. It was not playing for me.
Let's do that or not magic jargon. Ooh.
It's doing what?
So mine, when I opened up it was like, or not, nothing but magic jargon here, but then it like...
Did you hit the next button?
Yeah, and then gameplay started and her dialogue box like stayed on screen.
Yeah, no, you don't, it should have played it on this page that you're seeing right here, right now. I'm not sure why it's... Oh, you know what? I wonder if this one's not set up. No, that's correct. Well, in theory, this is how you would test it.
Sure.
Why it's not working? I'm not sure. Let me just do a quick debug. Because the other one was working just fine. I really need to restart my computer. It is chugging. Should not take this long to restart the game. Could be because I'm recording. Yeah, it's not actually... Oh, that's an interesting bug. Okay. Let me try reverting that. Come on. And the only reason I'm trying to show you an easy way to test this is so that you can actually get a good feel for pacing and like having those windows pop up.
Oh,
Realistically, what I should probably do is just make you a scene. That's just like Quinn's scene. And then you just hit play and it'll play the cutscene for you. That'd probably be easier than actually doing it this way. So I can make a note to do that for you.
So in the meantime, hold on, let me just make sure. I'm gonna like kind of give myself a quick condensed list of process. So it's like first is importing lines to localization.
Yeah, determine how you want your cutscene to play out.
Then it's, create new cutscene.
Yeah, this one works. Oh, that's why. Oh, I'm a dummy. Okay. There's in this page 1, when you delete this and put the other one in there, this is why I just need to make you your own test scene so that you don't have to mess with this crap. On this highest level of the hierarchy, you see how it says missing book page cutscene? Just need to drag that onto there. And then save. Then supposedly if I play, it should play.
So it says you're saying where it says none book page cutscene near the bottom?
Yep. Just drag the the object that's underneath container onto that field.
Okay.
There she is.
Sweet, and then I play?
Yep.
Let's see.
Aha, I knew it. Oop. Your spell weakened the book chain, and I'll totally destroy this page. Apparently did not do any other animation besides happy. She's very, very happy. Oh yeah, that didn't go away. You're right.
Okay. Well, I got the movement down, and she. But you can already see it's good to see that because you can go, oh, okay, like the dialogue box was kind of in the way, or
Exactly.
great.
And I will probably later tonight get you a scene that you can literally crack these open in, and then that way you can just go to your scene and place the object in there, and it'll play it.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. Oh yeah, this last one was set to stay open. That's why it stayed open for me, and probably for you as well. Make sure that can you see where I have right here? To set your last dialogue to close. So the only reason you want to let that stay open is if she's saying things like back to back to back without any pause, because you don't want the window going away and then opening back up. You know what I mean?
Right. So for which one? My very last one.
Mm-hmm.
Dialogue should stay open.
No, it should be closed.
Okay, my other ones were closing too. Those should stay open though, right?
So if she's doing some movement in between, like,
okay,
I would say close it. But if, like right here for me, she says one line and then the other, this one should probably be stay open so that it just replaces the existing text.
okay,
But you'll get the hang of it.
yeah. Let's see. How do I? That animation tab. What do I need to do again to get that to show, or get her to, or get the?
So double click inside the where all the diamonds
Oh,
are,
okay, sweet.
and then you can turn on record.
No, she's not here anymore. So can I be doing? If I want to continue to do edits to this thing, for example,
Mhm.
Under project. It's under prefabs, like we just did. Prefabs, page insert.
Yeah, I usually just search for
Oh yeah.
the name of the cutscene. That's easier. So Fiera Fire chapter level 1 outro.
Mm-hmm. And then the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And then. Just right now, I'm not able to.
Is your game still running?
It's just I can't do the scrubber and like look through it and see her moving around and stuff.
Did you put the object back on the page? So in here, if you drag level 1 outro back.
Oh, I see. If I want to, okay, yep, that's gotta be back in there to do stuff. Got it. Okay.
Just so you can see. And like I said, my test cutscene, I'm just going to copy this, and you can you'll be literally just be able to. You won't have to deal with all this other crap.
Sure.
But
Alright, yeah.
once you've got that back in here, select that.
And you can start to.
Brings up the timeline. You can double click, hit record. There she is again.
Perfect. Alright.
It looked like the coming out of the middle of the page worked. At least for me, I couldn't really tell.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's long but basic overview of the book pages. So the one aspect of this that you may want to deal with eventually, but I wouldn't worry about right now, is you may want something specific to be on the page, like there's specific text, or there's like specific like boxes or whatever you want her to like move around, or like there's something on the page you want her to interact with. That will require a little bit more setup, but something that we can get to when we get there. I would say for now, just get used to making these.
Yeah.
And then we'll sort of build from there.
Okay. No, that's like, that makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of a fun thing to get in there and just be blocking it out, and hopefully it takes a load off of a new father.
Well, I don't know. I think it's just cool to be able to let you create some of this stuff. And
Yeah, and any of this, even if it's one narrow slice of Unity to be getting into, it's just good to be familiarizing myself with the layout. I actually just I followed like a 15-minute, the part one of like a let's just make a basic ass game in Unity YouTube series, and it's actually pretty amazing. Within 15 minutes, the guy had like what was it? A ball dropping on top of a box with like, the appropriate physics for those objects and stuff. And yeah, so it's just kind of like nice that you can get pretty quick and dirty into it. But yeah, and so apparently I'll get a contract tomorrow from this dude.
Ooh.
And he just texted me a little bit ago, and he said I'm finalizing what projects there would be. So, I know I summed it up a little bit over